So this is a big one. With so many movies, TV shows, and holiday specials, the Star Wars canon is only going to get bigger from here on out. And this franchise means something different to everyone, which makes a list like this ranking everything a truly imposing task, because I'm not going to please anyone. Hell, I might not even please half of you. Quite simply, we aren't going to agree on everything here. And you know what? I'd have it no other way. As long as the criticism is in good faith, I genuinely can't wait to see what people would chop and change compared to the order that we've listed on here. And that's because, no matter what, I think we can all agree that Star Wars, it's bloody good, isn't it? So with that in mind, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and this is Star Wars, every movie and TV show ranked worst to best. Number 22, Star Wars Holiday Special. There are a few Star Wars projects that are outright bad, but the Holiday Special is sadly one of them. To call it a travesty would be an understatement. In fact, it's such a vilified work of temporary insanity that George Lucas once famously said that he'd smash every copy with a sledgehammer if he had the chance. Directed by Steven Binder, the 1978 TV special takes place just after the events of A New Hope, and follows Han Solo and Chewbacca as they race to visit the Wookiees' family whilst being pursued by the Empire. With its atrociously cheap sets and painfully uncomfortable performances, the holiday special really is as bad as it sounds, featuring nonsense sing-alongs, half-formed characters, and the poor introduction of future franchise legend Boba Fett. Number 21, the EWOK spin-offs. If there were any characters in the Star Wars universe who didn't need their own spin-offs, it probably would have to be the Ewoks, who were first introduced in Return of the Jedi. But in yet another spell of madness, Lucasfilm thought the idea showed promise, so an animated series titled Ewoks and two made-for-TV movies, those being Caravan of Courage and The Battle of Endor, were released between 1985 and 1986. And sadly again, aside from the holiday special, Star Wars as a franchise has never been more empty or meritless than this. Number 20, Droids. Droids, also known as The Adventures of C-3PO and R2-D2, was originally aired with its companion series EWOKs, and only just manages to rank higher than that misfire because it includes Anthony Daniels. With the same dull humour and technically unimpressive aesthetic, Droids is yet another wonky attempt to make a kids' TV show by people who seem to have never interacted with a child or Star Wars before in their lives. In attempting to tell audiences what 3PO and R2 were up to between the fall of the Republic and the birth of the Empire, the thankfully short-lived series takes much of the magic out of their development, so much so that it's occasionally kinda sad to watch. Number 19, Star Wars The Clone Wars. This intriguing animated movie was released in 2008 as the feature-length pilot to the upcoming Clone Wars TV show, and despite some inescapable flaws, remains a landmark installment for the franchise's most recent era. Introducing fan-favourite Ahsoka Tano to the saga as the Padawan learner of Anakin, the movie follows the pair as they engage in the early stages of the eponymous war, and are eventually called in to help Jabba the Hutt find his missing son. Split into shifting segments though, the Clone Wars is choppy and seemingly unfinished, watching like 3 different episodes spliced together, but it does well to set the table for things to come, especially where the war and characters are concerned. From this point on, things would never be the same again, and Star Wars fans are still reaping the benefits of the stage it's set. Number 18, Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones is the most disappointing of the prequel trilogy because its highs are so bloody high, but good lord are its lows low. For one thing, this was the prequel that featured the epic Battle of Geonosis, the introduction of the Clone Army, as well as Anakin and Obi-Wan clashing with the nefarious Count Dooku. In terms of world building and character development, it's great to revisit Attack of the Clones and realise just how much of it really adds to the Skywalker saga, bringing Anakin's darkness out and allowing the galaxy to get one step closer to war. The problem with all of this though, and much of the prequel trilogy in general, is the execution, which comes complete with a laughably bad script, atrocious performances, and a central romance between Anakin and Padme that borders on unforgivable. The groundwork is there, setting up big things, but it's seriously kinda hard to get through it at times. Number 17, Resistance. One of the more underrated additions to the franchise, Resistance is set before the events of the sequel trilogy, and follows the rebels as they spy on the looming threat of the First Order. With sharp visuals and a terrific voice cast such as sequel star Oscar Isaac, the 2-season exploration of the New Republic and the inner workings of the Rebel Alliance makes for both engaging and easily digestible fun for the whole family. It's not particularly challenging and suffers in part due to its lack of necessity to the overall story of the films, but Resistance is basically what EWOKs and droids tried to do in the 80s, be an exciting kid-friendly adventure show with heart, soul, and wit. Number 16, Visions. Visions is unlike anything else Star Wars has ever produced. Currently consisting of 1 season and 9 episodes, it's an anime anthology series that's not canon, but nonetheless is totally in keeping with the legacy of the franchise. Each episode of Visions forms its own story, produced by 7 different Japanese animation studios, given free rein on what stories they wanted to tell and how they used the franchise's mythology. The final results of this experimental mission are to die for, thanks in large part to its stunning visual appeal and powerful stories that are both unique and recognizable to longtime fans. It may not be the Star Wars that fans know and love, but Visions' fresh take on the galaxy far, far away is impossible not to fall for. Number 15, The Phantom Menace. The Phantom Menace definitely has its issues, many of them glaring. There's the introduction of Jar Jar Binks, young Anakin's many cringeworthy lines, and the heavy-handed politics of the Republic's world-building. But there are more virtues to the prequel trilogy's debut than you may remember. Amongst them, the strong performances and chemistry of Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson, the development of the Jedi Council, and John Williams' epic score. Then, of course, there's the film's highlight, the Duel of the Fates, in which Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Jinn clash with the silent villain Darth Maul, setting the stage for the chaotic war between light and dark that colours the entire saga. Its high points might not be enough to overcome its subtle-as-a-rock storytelling, strangely convoluted mythology, or tacky humour, but The Phantom Menace is far from being an all-out failure just because of them. Number 14, The Book of Boba Fett. The most recent series to be added to Star Wars' back catalogue, The Book of Boba Fett acts as a thrilling or lore-heavy continuation of several major plotlines set up in its groundbreaking predecessor, The Mandalorian. Most enjoyably, though, is the way the show has finally given Boba Fett a chance to live up to his massively overhyped legacy, portraying him with the steely determination and general toughness that he's always deserved. The show is still in its infancy, so it has some key problems currently weighing it down, from its struggles to actually keep Boba involved in the action to its too clean TV aesthetic, but it's already got more than enough twists, turns, and long-awaited character interactions to give it a strong start and a bright future. Number 13, The Rise of Skywalker. As the final chapter of the Skywalker saga, The Rise of Skywalker had a lot riding on its shoulders, and for the most part, it kinda squandered its potential. Despite some bright spots found in the bracing duels between Rey and Kylo Ren and its striking visual flair, the movie offers up a barrage of unwanted twists, such as the sudden return of Emperor Palpatine and nonsensical character motivations. But still, there is a lot to love in here. It's clear that the cast still really care about this material, and J.J. Abrams is trying his hardest to wrap up a sequel trilogy that clearly had loads of holes poked into it. It's not quite as divisive as its predecessor, but The Rise of Skywalker certainly has as many haters as it does fans. Number 12, Solo. One of the more underrated installments of the Star Wars saga, Solo's main issue stems from just how safe and arguably unneeded it is. But even then, its visual extravagance and exciting action does make it a worthwhile watch. Casting as So-So Alden Ehrenreich as the eponymous smuggler and emerging galactic hero, the prequel sheds light on Han's fun pre-Rebel days, the origins of his relationship with Chewbacca and Lando Calrissian, and his famously speedy Kessel Run, originally teased in A New Hope. It's genuinely enjoyable stuff as well, managing to pack enough action and gorgeous effects into the mix to overcome the issues with its predictable on-the-nose drama. Yes, poring over the vast Star Wars catalogue, Solo does feel like the biggest cash grab it's ever clutched for, but it's far from the all-out failure that many wish to paint it as. Number 11, The Bad Batch. The unexpected but welcome sequel to The Clone Wars, The Bad Batch follows a group of mutated clones who survive Order 66 with their minds intact, and set out as hidden guns for hire in a world far removed from the one that they once fought for. With awe-inspiring animation, it's already proven itself to be a magnificent addition to the canon. The voice work of D. Bradley Baker, mixed with the tightly plotted writing that effortlessly continues several major storylines set up in both the Clone Wars and Rebels, has made The Bad Batch yet another crowning success for Star Wars' animated landscape. And that's without getting into the richly envisioned clone protagonists, all of whom, especially Hunter, Omega, and Crosshair, are surely some of the most colourful characters the franchise has ever produced. Bring on the future of this show. Number 10, The Mandalorian. The Star Wars series that nobody knew they needed, The Mandalorian is about to enter its 3rd season and cement itself as a classic of the franchise. Thanks in large part to its infusion of Mandalorian mythology, heavily influenced by the works of TV shows like The Clone Wars and Rebels, and gripping action sequences, the series has hit new highs with each episode, and 2 seasons in seems to have single-handedly ushered in a new great era for the franchise's fans. Its clean production and slight overindulgence on fanservice has dampened things at times, sure, but The Mandalorian is still a modern Star Wars at its best. Number 9, Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith suffers from many of the same flaws as the rest of the prequels, most notably a melodramatic script emphasized by atrocious acting and rushed payoffs. But, and it is a big but, aside from its detours into ridiculousness and memeability, it's actually pretty damn good. Especially the second half. Between some really good performances like Ewan McGregor's, the haunting execution of the Order 66 sequence, and the way that it leans into the good versus evil theme of the saga, there is so much to love in this movie. It's not perfect, few movies are, but Revenge of the Sith captures the magic and darkness of the Star Wars saga almost as well as the originals, only with more CGI Yoda and coughing cyborgs who never live up to their potential. Also, who could possibly hate the final duel between Obi-Wan and Anakin? It makes the movie better whether you initially liked it or not. Number 8, Rebels. Set several years before the events of A New Hope, Rebels ran for 4 seasons and 75 episodes, and shed some revealing light on the early years of the original Rebel Alliance and the effects the fall of the Republic had on the galaxy. Uniquely animated to suit the original Star Wars concept art by Ralph McQuarrie, Rebels never shies away from the darkest recesses of the saga, but with its light humor and endearing gaggle of anti-heroes, makes itself fun for the whole family as well as top-tier Star Wars through and through. Number 7, The Force Awakens. In terms of story, it's tough to argue that The Force Awakens is mostly a rehash of the original trilogy. You know, an orphan with a forgotten past is thrust into an intergalactic war and finds their true calling as a Jedi Knight. But whilst its plot is derivative and sets in motion a story that leaves the events of the previous 6 movies a little bit forgotten, there is still so much to love about the first chapter of the sequel trilogy. For one thing, there's the characters, including troubled survivor Rey, roguish fighter pilot Poe, former stormtrooper Finn, and conflicted antagonist Kylo Ren, all of whom work well with legacy characters such as Han and Leia. Even with its divisive cliffhanger and predictable story, The Force Awakens is heaps of fun, and captures the spirit of the franchise's message and characters beautifully. It's aged very well and deserves a major reappraisal. Number 6, Return of the Jedi. The most common complaint leveled towards Return of the Jedi is that it's a little bit too silly, especially when compared to its 2 classic predecessors. EWOKs and the cartoonish Battle of Endor notwithstanding though, the final chapter of the original trilogy might actually be the darkest of the 3 films. Thanks in large part to Jabba the Hutt's general vileness and Luke Skywalker's final clash with his soon-to-be redeemed father. But it's not all bleak, instead striking a rewarding balance between the saga's heavier twists and its exciting sense of wonder and adventure. Even in its lesser moments, there's something here for everybody to enjoy. Return of the Jedi brings the trilogy to a fantastic conclusion, all told, tying up loose ends and riveting character arcs with violent and heartwarming payoffs to spare. Number 5, The Last Jedi. Without question, the most divisive addition to Star Wars' mighty back catalogue, The Last Jedi followed on from the cliffhanger of The Force Awakens, as Rey seeks a reclusive Luke's guidance on honing her skills as a Jedi. Directed by Rian Johnson, The Last Jedi digs deep into the characters at its centre more intensely than any Star Wars vehicle before or since. As Luke grapples with the results of his regrettable actions, Rey struggles to control her mysterious powers, and Kylo Ren seesaws between villainy and anti-hero. On top of that, it's also the most visually beautiful chapter of the entire saga, rich with vibrant colour, impressive set pieces, and a final act showdown between Luke and Kylo that's one of the best scenes in the franchise. It's not flawless, of course. I mean, Leia travelling through space is a little bit silly, whilst the Finn and Rose subplot does feel like directionless filler, but it's a daring adventure that takes risks and makes them work much better than expected. Number 4, Rogue One. Yep, that's right, I guess. The one without any Jedi and a large ensemble of never-before-seen characters is, in fact, one of the best Star Wars projects of all time. Yet another story to take place before the events of A New Hope, Rogue One follows a group of mismatched rebel soldiers as they risk everything to steal the Death Star plans from a highly protected Imperial planet. Visually gorgeous and rife with subtle tragic characters we really wish had more time, the prequel soars thanks to its avoidance of formula. There's no prophecies here or superpowered beings battling for the galaxy, just everyday people with an eclectic set of skills willing to fight for what they believe in. Rogue One is epic, harrowing, and unpredictable stuff, and makes the events of the original trilogy that much richer to revisit. It really is that great. Number 3, The Clone Wars. The best Star Wars show on offer, The Clone Wars is the franchise's most expansive and eye-opening descent into the complexities and inner workings of the galaxy, confidently shedding light on its politics, the Jedi Order, and the turmoil of conflict. Focusing on a wide variety of characters during the titular war, the 7-season series told stories about rookie clones, one-off Jedi, bounty hunters, behind-the-scenes political betrayal, and more, with each development adding a new layer of brilliance to the saga's impressive world-building. Aside from its stunning animation, epic battles, and endless supply of engrossing characters though, The Clone Wars' true power came from how it explored the downfall of Anakin Skywalker, his Padawan Ahsoka, and his master Obi-Wan. The Clone Wars is such a rewarding experience, mixing the franchise's humor, darkness, and heartbreak together perfectly, that there's only 2 things on this list that can beat it. Number 2, A New Hope. It all started here, with an orphan farmer called Luke Skywalker who escaped from his mundane existence and, along with a princess, an infamous smuggler, a Wookiee, 2 droids, and a weathered Jedi Master, became the face of a war without end. Undeniably one of cinema's most important cultural landmarks, A New Hope gave birth to the modern blockbuster, and set in motion the lives of a group of fantastical characters who continue to shape pop culture and the entire Star Wars franchise to this day. Yeah, there are aspects of the space opera that haven't aged well, from some of the special effects to the lackluster lightsaber duels, but watching it some 40 years later, it's impossible to not be gripped by George Lucas's vision and the innovation taking place on screen. From here, the Star Wars saga would go bigger, but it would never be this important and unique ever again. Number 1, The Empire Strikes Back. In the end, there could only be one, couldn't there? As obvious a pick as it may be, there's few who can argue against The Empire Strikes Back being the pinnacle of the franchise. Taking what was set up in A New Hope, the second chapter of the original trilogy finds our assorted heroes stretched thin in a galaxy torn apart by war, as Luke Skywalker hunts down the elusive Jedi legend Yoda in an attempt to master his still emerging power. With more epic action and emotion than its predecessor, The Empire Strikes Back continues to be the gold standard of Star Wars, bursting to life as a thrilling war movie, an engaging tale of good versus evil, and a blockbuster that dares to hurt its characters and shock audiences with its secrets. From the duel between Luke and Darth Vader that culminates in a devastating twist, to the loss of Han Solo and the opening Battle of Hoth, Star Wars has never been more assured of itself or flawless as it was with The Empire Strikes Back. So, that's our list. Like I said at the beginning, this is a big one, and I really want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What's your ranking? What do you think of this one? And am I dumb for putting The Last Jedi at number 5? Hey, maybe I am. While you're down there as well, could you please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to What Culture Star Wars for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.